Yeah, so this Sham, we have had a call once before this, if I'm right. So I work in Cognizant, and in KP, Meena and I are building the human capital vertical, which is called Captain Fantastic. And the other thing that I was interested in is the UI part of the product that we are building, and currently the interest area is gamification, and that is what NC and I have been leading for quite some time now.
Cool. All right. Hey guys, I'm Sanjeev. Work for a company called Freshworks. I'm a sales guy. Throughout the day, I talk to customers, convince them to buy our products. And at night, I'm working in KP, and mostly I'm involved in the social vertical, which is our marketing and PR wing. And mostly I'm getting involved in a lot of things that's new to me. And on the other side, on the tech side, I'm also starting to get my foot into product management, and that's kind of how this happened, where we thought gamification, and particularly a specific framework called Octalysis, which we're going to talk about today, can help us in designing our kiosks, designing our applications, and we thought that's actually quite useful and very interesting. So Prashant put us onto that, and that's how that's what this session is going to be. All right, so we'll just start off just to set some context, right? So we're going to talk about gamification and a specific framework called Octalysis, which was developed by Yukai Choi. Before we get in, you guys can see our screen, right? Because it happens all the time, and you realize that you're halfway in the presentation, people can't hear you or see you. So you guys can see and hear us properly, right?
Yep. Okay. I can.
Perfect. All right. Okay, Ji. So we were doing this, right? So we wanted to give a kick-ass presentation. So what we did was we actually watched a presentation on how to do a presentation, and it actually said that every presentation should have stories to start with, so that it doesn't look boring. So we just incorporated that right off the bat. So I let Sham start off with his story. So what do you have for us, Sham?
Yeah. So when you were telling about games, so I was thinking about what I did in my childhood. So I grew up in Madurai. So it is not a very big city. So the place where we go and play wasn't. I had to travel quite some time, which means I had to walk for 10 minutes to go to a computer store where a part of it I could actually play games. Then came the PS2, and then I started playing SmackDown. Here comes when I think you would have also met it.
Yeah, so Brock Lesnar for
for me it was Rock, but it's fine. So I was playing so much that there came a point where I stole money from my home. So I wasn't able to reach where I had change, like 5 rupee coins. So I remember dragging a chair, then standing on it, taking 5 rupee coins, because playing half an hour was 5 rupees back then. So I made some friends. So there were like 4 of us playing, just pretending to be greatest wrestlers of all time. So what is your story?
Okay, so for contrary to yours, right? So I had a really boring life in real. So most of my energy was spent online. So I had a really strong social circle, and how it started was actually very interesting. So I'm not sure if you guys were on Orkut. So that is where I started my social media journey. And there, a particular game in a community kind of attracted me, right? So the game was very simple. All you have to do is post 3 scraps or 3 posts together, and if someone else interrupts you, they win. If you can post 3 thrice in a row, you win. That's all the game was, and we called it Orkut Premier League, OPL for short. And it was so addictive that many times I was not reading for exams. I was not I was skipping dinner. I was going late for school because I was staying up playing this game, and it helped me form a lot of friends with whom I'm still in touch with. And the second instance of that was on Facebook, where there's this group page called Battle of Hogwarts. All they did was conduct Harry Potter quizzes throughout the day. So when I say throughout, it's 24 hours straight, because people from all over the world were playing, and it was across time zones. And we had people who were staying up 24 hours without taking breaks, and they'll just be answering questions. And you had people fight in real, and you had people backbite, and you had people who get emotional, deactivate their Facebook account over this. And so that is kind of, a lot of this now comes back to me, because back then I didn't realize that such a concept or such a, a framework existed. But now if I think back after like learning through gamification and after like getting into Octalysis, there are a lot of things that, we thought were like normal, we thought were natural, were actually a lot of drivers behind, what drove that specific behavior, right? So that is our intro, or that's where we want to get into gamification. So gamification, at least in my words, right, is actually somehow games have figured out how to keep people motivated, how to keep people engaged. So you look at Candy Crush, you have Clash of Clans, you have like so many games that have managed to keep kids and adults actually engaged in an activity that is, if you break it down, is repetitive. It's like meaningless, but people are like doing it, doing it like every day. So Sham, so with that context, would you introduce gamification for us? So what do you think gamification is?
Yeah. So gamification, as NC was telling, like no one tells us to play a game as a mandatory task. We play games because we want to play, and no one says you have to play this, and this is what the level you have to be by the end of the week. We play it because it is engaging. We play it because it is addicting. Sometimes we play it because it is fun. So what is gamification then? So gamification is the craft of deriving fun and engaging elements found typically in games, and then bringing it to real world problems or real world systems, right? So we bring those fun and addicting elements and make sure that it is part of a productive work as well. So bringing those elements to the real world and making work productive.
Cool. All right. So the focus here is that in this context of gamification, the real world is the focus, not the games. You're just using games as a supplement. So with that, right? So there's a little concept or something that Yukai Choi talks about, that is function focus versus human focus. This caught my eye, and I felt that this is like so simple, but then most of us don't realize it, right? So if you look at today's systems, today's apps, today's anything, it is purely function focused, which means it is designed to work. It is designed because someone has to do it, but it doesn't factor in why someone has to do it. For example, let's say look at our offices, right? We have processes, and these processes tell us what to do and assume that we will do it. It doesn't factor in why we should do a certain process, and that is where human focused design comes in, which you guys focus on. He talks about it a lot, and that is actually what gamification is. It's human focused design, where it factors in the motivation levels. It factors in the fact that we are humans and we are not machines, and we are not going to be able to do everything, and we cannot be left for assumption that we will do anything at any point. So have you guys ever felt that someday that you get up and go to work or go to college or go to study, and then you just don't want to do it and you just can't go there, and that is completely fine, because we are humans and we will have those days. So what human focused design is going to bring in is, what if your colleges or your workforce were designed in a way to account for all of this? What if it was designed in a way that you don't get bored? What if it was designed in a way that you don't get tired? And what if, and like Yukai Choi's future vision or his imagination of the world is that the entire world be designed in a way that it factors in human elements, and the entire any activity that you're going to do in the world is fun and engaging. So that's what he wants the world to get to. And personally, I think that we need more by people like him imagining the world like that, because we are living in such a robotic, mundane world that assumes that humans will do anything that you throw at them.
And also it assumes that we know our code drivers, right? So
exactly.
What happens most of the time is we think we know our code drivers, but we don't, because there's a gap between what we think we know and what is actually happening. So again, this Octalysis framework that brings in the code drivers that help us gamify in the system.
Cool. All right. So this is a chart that Sham quickly drew on his notebook, and I just put it on a slide, and I'm like looking forward to what Sham has to say about this.
So this is typically like how you have product life cycles. This is how the life cycle of a game looks like. Simply put, there are 4 phases in a game. First is discovery. You don't end up playing suddenly something. You discover it first. Maybe your friend wants you to play. Your drivers can be anything for discovering a game, because maybe your girlfriend or your boyfriend wanted you to try this app or something like that. So discovery is the first phase, and followed by it is the onboarding. Onboarding is where you learn the basic rules of the game. So say like World of Warcraft, you start small and then you start building. It's like almost an empire of characters with whom we are playing with. Right? So you have the discovery phase. Once you discover, you move on to onboarding. Now you learn the rules of the game. Onboarding is a small phase, but it is very important because that is where you learn the rules. And now we are set for the entire gaming phase, which is called scaffolding. It's not written here. The game on phase. The game on phase is where you spend most of your time in. Say, for example, if you play a game for a month, your scaffolding would be like 3 weeks. And before that, you take a day to discover, and onboarding will take a couple of days. And once the scaffolding is done, which means now we have played the entire game, you have crossed all the levels, and this can be as small as completing a game in one day, or it can be 1 year or even years together, like say Dota, or depending on the drivers, or even World of Warcraft, right? So, and then comes the phase of end game. This is like the game is dying, not necessarily because the game is bad. It is because now it is time to move on to the next game or a better version of the game. So the last phase would be the end game, which means what the player wants to feel. The drivers are now satisfied, and it's time to move on.
We'll talk about the 8 core drivers, right? Just to set some little context on what the drivers mean. So driver is nothing but what drives us to do something. And the way the Yukai Choi breaks it down is into 8 specific drivers, 8 specific reasons why as humans we go out and do something. Now we're going to look at all of this a little bit in detail, and see that's actually the core of the presentation. So I'll let Sham talk about the first core driver.
Okay, so again, just adding one point to the driver conversation. We all have drivers, so even if you think we are lazy and not doing stuff, we are sleeping. Our driver is again being lazy. So we are used to the comfort of being lazy. So that is a comfort can be a driver, right? So when we are looking at game mechanics here, we are looking at gamification as a craft. So we are looking at these 8 drivers, and as Yukai Choi says, these 8 drivers form the framework, and you could say all the game mechanics that any game that has been created, that is being created, and that will be created will have all these 8 drivers in that. And so coming to the first driver, by the way, these are not separate pieces in the puzzle. They are actually a whole form, which means you could see more than one driver in a specific phase of the game. We are just breaking it apart so that we'll see what each means. And then when we are applying it, we'll apply it in a whole form structure. So coming to epic meaning and calling, one of the simplest ways of thinking it, right? So if you've seen the movie The Matrix, you'll see where Neo is actually sleeping and he wakes up and he sees this screen and it says, "Wake up, Neo." And then he tries, tapping with his keyboard, and then he sees that it says, "Follow the white rabbit." It is a moment where he heard his calling. Right? He now has something that he heard, and then he starts moving in the direction where, in this case, he starts moving towards finding the white rabbit. And the common thing that we have used, we keep using like every time we want to find information, is Wikipedia. If you see, why should someone be part of the user community of Wikipedia? Who there is a stat which says in 2015, when you try to post something in Wikipedia in 1.7 minutes, it gets edited or it is being rejected because the content is not either accurate, is not very good. So what does this mean? This means that people 24/7 are looking out to make sure that Wikipedia content is filtered out and it is very good. Now, why does this happen? This happens because whenever you do something bigger than yourself, you feel that you now have meaning in the work that you do. Right? What we do right now with KP as an organization, we see that we have a calling. We have a calling to do something bigger, and we also have a calling to do something more meaningful. Right? So when we get this, that each and every one, irrespective of what their meaning is, when they have a calling, they start moving in that direction. It can be any way. So the movie that comes to my mind is Avatar, where Jake Sully goes into Pandora and starts working with the Navi people. Right? So when we get this, it means that in the discovery phase, our game will also have a phase in which there is a calling, and there is a meaning for that calling when the user starts playing.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So we're going on to the next driver, which Yukai Choi calls development and accomplishment, right? So don't think I'm rude by looking at my phone. I have my notes there. That's why I'm looking at it. So this is actually the most common implementation of gamification that we see. You look at any game, you look at any implementation of gamification, it will have points, badges, and leaderboards, and that is actually the most common implementation. So the driver here is that we want to grow and we want to progress continuously in life. For example, let's say if you have a game and then you'll only get to know if you're winning or losing if you play like 8 hours. So you're going to give up in like 2 hours, right? Because you don't even know where you're going. But the reason these guys break it down into levels, break it down into milestones, is that at every milestone, which is like a short implementation, you feel that you're progressing, you feel that you're moving ahead in that game, and that keeps you going on. And this is the driver that most of the online courses, the MOOC courses kind of leverage. Like if you look at Coursera, if you look at Udemy, they continuously have a progress bar which will kind of keep telling you that, hey, this is the kind of progress that you're making. And actually, my most favorite implementation is Duolingo. I'm not sure if you guys have used it. So Duolingo is an app where you can learn new languages, right? It continuously tells you how many points you have, how many points you need, and it will continuously keep motivating you. And actually, I loved it, and it kept me motivated. I completed like half a course in Dutch, and I can like now recognize few of these words, and it is only because of that app. I never would have learned Dutch otherwise. Okay, what else do I have? Yep. So, and the reason that this is so if you look at the framework, if you look at like a couple of other things on the slide, we have like a white hat on the top, and you have like left brain extrinsic. So this is more of the Yukai Choi's way of splitting the driver. For example, this is a very tangible thing that you can easily measure, and it's an extrinsic driver. That is you are looking after something that you don't have right now. Like you don't have a skill. Your driver is to go behind it and obtain that skill. And that is why it's extrinsic. So these skills are split into like different realms, and that we'll put it all together at the end when we are explaining the framework as a whole. So for now, I'm moving on to the next one, which Sam will take over.
Yeah. So the third driver that we see here is empowerment of creativity and feedback. So if you've seen, there is the opposite wording that we have right here. So this is right brain driver, and it is intrinsic. So what do we mean by this is intrinsic? Which means that when you're talking about empowering creativity and feedback, now we do not have something external to look towards. We do not look at a hierarchy of things that needs to be done. We actually start creating something. So one of the I was thinking what example to tell for this, and last week we were actually sitting here in backyard in Adyar, Chennai. So I was for the first time I played this game called Jenga. Right? So we have to stack the Jenga in such a way that it comes to the tallest. It comes to the tallest height. So each time, right? So when someone the question that the author puts here is just empowering creativity or feedback doesn't mean just creating layers and layers and layers of game of levels, creating levels again and again, which means the developers have to put in more time so that they keep creating a level every other month. No. So when you're trying to empower creativity, having a structure and then having some elements like in Jenga where you have only the Jenga with it, and then you can have various permutation and combinations of how it is assembled, like how you have Lego also, right? So you can assemble the Lego in I'm not sure if it is unlimited, but a very large number of permutation and combination of methods, right? So whenever you have a game, right? For example, Dota is where you know what you're doing, but still you have various methods of arranging a team dynamics and moving the direction that you want to. So empowering creativity and providing feedback. So whenever you do something, then you have a feedback. Especially say now you have a message which says you have leveled up, you have a message which says now you found this person, you have a message says now you can move to the next world so that you can conquer it. That is a core driver, and this is not necessarily extrinsic, it is not outside, but you feel that okay, now I have figured this out, finally I've figured this out, right? How the X prices or how say the concept of hyperloop. So when Elon Musk gave to the top engineering community, it is a very good example of what this driver is: empowering creativity and feedback. And now you have something to figure out, and now you have something to be creative as well. And then when you really do something, you have feedback of whether it works or not.
So feedback is when people tell you that, hey, you're doing a good job. So in Duolingo again, every time you pass a level or every time you're like making progress, this small like character will come in and say that, hey, you're doing a brilliant job. It's nothing. So it's kind of feedback on what is like how you are doing. So if you keep doing something without anyone telling you if you're doing the right thing or not, then you'll feel like this thing and lost. Yeah, you'll feel lost. And this is exactly why employees lose motivation, because most of the time they don't receive feedback on how they're doing. So that is this driver. And so one thing that on the like intrinsic part of this nature, right? So one thing that Yukai Choi mentions is that some activities are fun on its own, which means that you don't need a reward to do it. But one interesting thing that he says, right? For example, let's say if I like painting just for the heck of it. The easiest way to get me to stop painting is by paying me for it. So let's say that I start painting and you're giving me $20 and you slowly reduce it to a point where it's like $1. I'll be like, no, I can't paint for that anymore. Actually, when you met me before that, I was painting for free. Now I'm refusing to paint, because some activities on its own are fun, and the only way to kill it is by giving extrinsic rewards. Just wanted to bring that out there as well. Cool. So the next driver is ownership and possession. Right? This is again most commonly seen. So you know how people like to accumulate wealth, right? So this is the driver behind that motto, where people just like want to accumulate wealth and keep it in their bank. They have that sense of ownership and possession over their money, and this is why people collect cards. This is why people have this sense of. So if you look at games like Farmville, Mafia Wars, Clash of Clans, where the model itself grows on accumulation. Like if you go to a certain level, you have a certain number of gold, and then you're constantly working on saving that and not wanting to lose it. And this motivation drives a lot of activities. And within games specifically, if you have spent time, investing in something and then building something up, you didn't want to let go of it. If you look at, most of the social media sites, when you start out, they force you to upload a picture. They force you to add some friends. And if you look at Facebook, a great example is that you don't want to you feel so connected and you feel like you own that account because of the number of likes and comments you've accumulated over time, the number of photos you've uploaded, number of friends you've gathered. And the same thing happened to me, right? Like Output died like really long time ago, but I had over like 80,000 scraps and like some 50 testimonials in there that every once in a month I just kept logging in there and like looking at it. Even though it didn't make any sense, I felt that kind of ownership towards that profile, right? And that's the motivation, or that's the drive this is about. And if you look at when we look at the framework after this, you see that this is positioned the most the leftmost corner. This is the most powerful extrinsic drive, which means that this is something that everyone goes after because you get to own it and possess it. Cool. So going on to the next one, which for some reason, yeah.
Okay, so which comes in nicely with you, just that you brought Facebook in, so it comes in nicely with social influence.
So we didn't plan for this, just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. Right. So I was having a call with one of the members in people today morning, and we were discussing the difference between individual, which is self, and social. So the conversation went in the direction of how we are most influenced by the social elements than our own choices. So one of the way in which the games use this co-driver is the first way that we already know is making sure that it is spreading. So say you do something, you get a star or something, then you have a share button, you go and share with your friends and say, hey, you can now play this, I'm in this level. And you also have the real world application apps like Uber, where now you can, because you have a code, you go and share with someone, and then you make sure that they are in the system also, and you get a reward when it comes to extrinsic motivation as well. So the particular way that we want to look at here, because we are talking about KP as an organization and the project that we are working, is the idea of mentorship, right? So one of the things that we really train in a way is when we have a mentor, when we have someone that we look up to, then we do it because of their influence, and we do it because we are related to it. So that is how Soul is organized, right? And if you have watched Subhata Mitra's video on Soul, you could see the dynamics of social influence and relatedness. What do I mean by that? So when Subhata Mitra comes, places a PC, and then he goes out for 3 months, what happens right there is that there is a kid who comes there, and she sees that, okay, I'm trying to learn something. And then because she's there, 4 of her friends are like, goes to her and try to learn. And now other kids see, okay, those 5 kids are studying something or learning something, and then we also want to relate to them in some way. So they go and start learning as well. So the social influence doesn't just mean that now you have you can share this with your friends. This is the cool thing to do. It also has a different meaning to it when it comes to mentorship. So in Soul, when a kid who is trying to figure out what is happening, she actually goes to a teacher or to a mentor or to a guide, learns what needs to be done, and then she brings it back to the group. So that there is this relatedness, there is this influence dynamic that is happening. And we also have the end goal achieved, which is learning in that case. You want to add something to that?
Okay, so maybe I can add something that usually happens to me. So I have, so I subscribe for LinkedIn Learning, right? So LinkedIn Learning is the platform within LinkedIn, and every time I learn a new skill, it prompts me to add it on my social profile. So what this does is it's boosting this driver of mine that I want to share what I'm learning with my friends. And recently I got into this habit of sharing the books that I'm reading on Instagram stories, sharing TED Talks that I'm watching on Instagram stories. And I used to make fun of my friend who used to post a lot of selfies on Instagram. But if you think about it, both of us are doing this for the same drive, just on different reasons. That's all. So I think this is something that's present in most of us. But now that because of Yukai Choi, now we are able to put names to things that we know implicitly.
And use it better when you're
exactly. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so the next driver is scarcity and impatience. If you look at it, it's a black hat driver. So what does a black hat driver means is that you don't necessarily enjoy doing these activities, but then you do it just to get out of something or just to avoid something. So for example, scarcity and impatience, it's a core driver that motivates us because we want something because we are unable to get it, or we can't have it. Like how many times have we wanted something that we just can't have, and the fact that we can't have it will drive it more. So for example, OnePlus the company OnePlus utilized this really well, right? They said it's an invite-only system. You didn't even you don't even know what the phone does. You don't even know how great it is. But because you need an invite to get into that, you just want to have it. And Facebook also did it really well, by saying they opened up just inside Harvard, and then they went on to other communities. And by the time that the entire world got to know about it, they couldn't get in. And the fact that they couldn't get in made them want to get in even more. So actually, if you think about it, we come across this in our everyday life, right? Like every time you try to shop something on Amazon, it will tell you that only 2 left in stock, only 3 left in stock. Now think about it. The biggest retail guys in the globe, do you really think they don't stock up on their top items enough? It is just a way they are just using this driver to manipulate you into buying that thing because you feel that it's not going to be available anymore. And in fact, the more that I talk about it, the more I realize that I fall prey to it a lot, because whenever I see something on offer, I just go buy it. Whenever I see, clearance sale, I just go and buy it. Because I think that, oh my God, this is my best chance, is not gonna, be available again. So this is something that drives our everyday behavior in terms of shopping, and it's the most relevant that I've seen. So even in games, right, this is very, what do you say? You want to have something. For example, let's say some people put money into actual money in games to buy something just because they're not able to wait to get somewhere, because the fact that they can't have it pushes them to an extent where they're paying money. Like Zynga games poker, or games like Clash of Clans, Farm will exploit this really well. They say that you either wait 20 hours or pay $5. To wait that 20 hours for someone who's bought in, $5 is nothing. And think about all the amount of people that put that $5 in, and think about all the money that companies like Farmville can make.
Okay, so the next core driver is unpredictability and curiosity. There comes a time when you actually know the game pretty well, and then if you're going to continue the same thing again and again and again, then it becomes boring, right? Because we started the premise saying no one says playing a game is mandatory. This is something that you want to do because the games exist because they please humans and everything. So if say Sanjeev and I were speaking the same thing again and again, the same pattern or in the same even voice modulation. At some point, gamification.
You know,
at some
like
point,
fifth time, you know that we're going to say that.
Same thing. At some point, Bhuwana would have already slept off and she wouldn't realize that the meeting has ended, right? So there should be a point in the game, or many points in the game, where it should be unpredictable and it start working with our brains. What do I mean by start working with our brains is it should start making the users curious, and it should also know that it is going to become unpredictable, because we all like surprises, right? So when we, like, for example, I remember this sweepstakes that I did way back when I was in school in Reader's Digest. I knew I had like 1 in a million chance, but I still kept, posting for it every 6 months for like 2 to 3 years, if I remember it right. So that I had this, dream that I might win that huge reward, even though I knew I was like 1 in a million. So that is an example of unpredictability. And also you have a lot of experiments that are done in like Pavlov's experiments, where you see how starting with rats, how they behave when you give food to them at a particular point and when you don't. So when it becomes unpredictable, then people actually start, though we started with rats, I'd say when it becomes unpredictable, people want to spend more time with the game so that they'll see what is the next, whether it's a level unlock or whether it is a new weapon that you have, so that you can go playing into the war, or even in the case of Need for Speed Most Wanted, where you have in the game that you're playing, you have a special mission that you can go and play, so that when you come back to play with the backlist, you are now somehow stronger and move to the next level.
So actually, I want to go back to that experiment because it's a really interesting experiment. So what it was that so they put a rat inside a box and then they gave it a button. So every time the rat, every time the rat press that button, it's going to get a food, and it's going to happen every time. So what they found was that the rat only pressed the button when it was hungry, and the moment it had food and it pressed the button, got food, it was not hungry, it wouldn't go back to the button again. The next time they changed the experiment such that the moment rat pressed the button, it may or may not get food. Like sometimes it'll be the second time, sometimes 5 times together, it's not going to get food. And they found that the rat kept pressing the button irrespective of it being hungry or not. So it is a very clear example that unpredictability and not knowing what's going to happen us keeps driving us. And this is the reason that we hate spoilers. This is the reason that we hate spoilers. And this is the reason that we can't put down a book if it's like really curious, and we keep watching and just want to know what's gonna happen at the end.
Yeah, and also if you notice, there is a black hat.
Means, it's a bad driver. Like given a choice, we would stop it, but then we don't have a choice.
Yeah, so you have both phases actually. When you really are driving curiosity, then it is fine. But if you're driving unpredictability because you want to have a different motive, then we have to end up with a bad karma.
And just to end off, how bad this driver is this is what that keeps gambling going on. Right? Like you play just to know what's going to happen next, and the fact that you're losing money is not that great for you. Curiosity is not necessarily black hat, but then you're holding them on to something that, see, for example, if you actually break down curiosity, it's about you not knowing what's going to happen next, like, or you wanting to know more. It is not necessarily good because it is not it's not a good driver. For example, if you compare it against something like a development accomplishment, for a fact that you keep pursuing something because it's good for you. With curiosity, the only thing that's driving you is you not knowing or you wanting to know, and that's why it's classified black hat.
I don't think like one thing is like this black hat, white hat doesn't mean bad and good, right?
No, it doesn't mean bad and good. It's a different.
It's just like what is his take on it.
Yeah.
So is it even like negative drivers and positive drivers?
Kind of, yeah. Because for example, if you look at loss and avoidance, it is like the extreme end of that Octalysis, because he says this is the most, like in his terms, it could be negative. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, and he also says that a combination of all these drivers is what can drive a good game. But for example, if you look at games like Zynga, poker, they rely heavily on black hat drivers. And he says that is not necessarily good. Like for example, if you rely heavily on white hat drivers, it's still fine. But if you rely heavily on black hat drivers, it's not healthy. I would say it's not good enough. It's not healthy.
Okay, so very neatly you moved on to loss and avoidance. So what is it?
Yeah. So with loss and avoidance, it is the motivation or it is the driver that keeps us That's the fear that, we lose something. And it is, again, a very common driver in our everyday life. It is a fear that keeps us on to and like hold on to something and not lose it, right? For example, so real world example is that we have expiry coupons, and we say that this coupon is only available, like a 10% off is only available till the end of the day. And it is pushing you to cash in that coupon by putting in the 90% of the money just because you don't want to lose the 10%. So in our lives, we are constantly in the fear of, not losing and avoiding, basically not losing something that we hold on to. And this combined with the fifth driver, right, ownership and possession, can actually like create a very powerful drive. For example, you build from scratch in a game that you build an empire, and then now you're moved on from a fifth driver to the eighth driver where you built something. Now you're caught, and you don't want to lose what you have built. So this is kind of one example of how these drivers kind of work with each other to drive a certain behavior and drive motivation. You haven't.
8 points drivers.
This is 8
Is there a reason as to why they take this order, or is that a random?
Thank you so much for asking. Okay, so this is a slide that we thought we'll put in the end and kind of bring out the beautiful way in which Yukai Choi has put in all these drivers together, right? So the way that he split it is it's an octagon, so 8 ways to it, and the things that you see on the top, meaning, accomplishment, and empowerment, are white hat drivers. So this that we discussed, these are things that have. Yep. So these are things that things you like doing, and things that the activity itself is fun. You don't need an extrinsic reward for this. Like for example, in terms of epic meaning and calling, you like the fact that you are doing something that's beyond you. And if you move down the octagon, you have scarcity and predictability and avoidance. These are things that given a choice, you would stop, but you do it anyways because of these drivers. So this is the white hat and black hat. When it comes to intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, right? So extrinsic motivations on the left are accomplishment, ownership, and scarcity, like in the combination. So these are very materialistic things. For example, accomplishment is very tangible. You know exactly when you're going from level 1 to level 2, and it is an external driver. Like someone has to tell you what you've accomplished. You don't know it within yourself. When it's ownership, it is materialistic. You are going outwards to achieve that. And when you move on the other side, which is an intrinsic, it is something that you feel within you. For example, empowerment. It is not tangible. You feel empowered, and you don't have to let someone tell you that you are empowered. So that's when it becomes accomplishment. Social influence. You like the fact that the other people, and even when other people influence you. Let's say you share something like 20 likes. It is something that you feel good about. It is not a very tangible thing. And unpredictability, something that lives within you. You want to know what's happening next, and no one's telling you that, hey, you should know what's happening. Things that happen within you. And he's like placed it in a way that, for example, epic meaning and calling is the most powerful white hat driver, and loss and avoidance is the most powerful black hat driver. Ownership is the most powerful left brain, and social influence is the most powerful right brain. And these two are neither white hat nor black hat. Like ownership and social influence, and epic meaning and calling and avoidance are neither left brain or right brain. So he's like put it in a certain way, and the order that we went is the order that he also defines it. So white hat first, and then the black hats. So this is the entire framework, and there's also a bigger image with all the game techniques in there. So we'll talk a little bit about game techniques as well. So before that, we just want to Sean, do you have anything to
I think one of the things that I want to add is, so when someone is playing a game, we are playing for a win state, what we call a win state, right? So if you're wondering, okay, now we have all the drivers, what to do, it means first we start with what Sanjeev said, we are starting with human focused design. So in this case, the user that we want to work with, we make them an avatar. Like we see what they want and we see what their win state is. So for a kid, the win state will be different. For adults, for adults, the win state would be different. And the win state could be driven by these various drivers. Right? So when we are designing, we actually start with the why. Again, that is what we started with. So when we start with, okay, why we are doing this, human focused, to whom we are actually doing with it, and how would the win state look like, then we could actually start playing with all these 8 drivers in different missions.
Correct.
Depending on what the win state is.
True. And from Yukai Choi's talks, right, I got to know that this is the best place that we can be, right? White hat plus right brain, because if you go into extrinsic rewards, for example, companies reward us for our good behavior. It's really good at the start, but then it is found that you lose motivation after a while. Let's say they keep rewarding you every month and the reward is going to be the same. You don't want to do that anymore. Whereas if it's going to be an intrinsic reward, like you feeling good about something, and then you believing that you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself is evergreen, and you're always going to be motivated. So this is something that we can continuously work towards with a couple of things. For example, this is the most dangerous technique or the dangerous quadrant to be in, right? By keeping someone engaged, by the black hat techniques like unpredictability and loss and avoidance, means that they don't really want to be engaged, but then you're manipulating these drivers to keep them engaged. And like it's mentioned here, gambling like activity. You enjoy gambling, but then you feel guilty about it. You like doing it, but then you feel guilty about it. Given a choice, you would get out of it. So this is the most dangerous, or like the most unhealthiest way to keep someone engaged with the game. Okay, Oji? Yeah, cool. So we wanted to take one example. This is again right from Yukai Choi's website, of one example of something that we all of us know, and break it down to see how they've like applied these game techniques. So these examples are actually given here. We just want to spend we want to just spend a couple of minutes just going through this.
Breaking on Facebook's method. Facebook isn't actually doing.
Facebook isn't doing this, but what happens?
One thing is that gamification is not applied just to games. So the way Yukai Choi is applying it is like everything is it's like every app that you're building, or in real life also, the way that say we engage in an office environment, or the way we engage with our family, all of that you can apply gamification. So one of the things that he really breaks down is that gamification is not just for building games or the games that are out there, but for a lot of other experiences that we see around us.
So this is reverse engineered basically. So this Facebook did not use Octalysis to achieve this. Facebook naturally, organically did all of this. Yukai Choi broke it down and applied that into his framework to say that, okay, this is why Facebook was so successful.
Is he giving this as an example, or is this where he drew this?
This is one example. He does it for all of other applications.
So he's done research for like 10 years and he has applied it for hundreds of different things.
This is something that all of us can relate to.
So one more caveat that I would put to, in addition to what Bhuvna started, and when you were asking about unpredictability and curiosity, and before that scarcity, right? So we are just reading this and interpreting it, right? So but the more you get involved and you go look at it and look at how these different things impact, and you are able to draw real world examples, only then will we all be able to relate it and see if we can use it as a technique or not. Remember, this is just a framework. Everything can never be fit into one framework, but you can use a framework to define requirements in a sturdier fashion. So we are choosing one such tool, but no tool is perfect. Remember that. So like, for example, when Sanjeev says that the black hat drivers are not recommended by Yukai Choi, but in real life, when we get into certain situations, those black hat drivers help us survive. So there is no such thing as, a negative driver or a positive driver and you control it, right? So we're not looking to control it, but we're looking to understand it so that as we build the game dynamics, we're able to apply some of these things consciously, right? Some of it subconsciously is going to happen. Any game that you get into, you will have these experiences, and if the experiences are more negative, then some people may not get into. So having said that, so I think we had time to look at the different drivers. So what did you guys want to say?
So just to kind of these are things that we already know. For example, if you're looking at Facebook from an Octalysis standpoint, you see that the social pressure or the social influence part of this framework is the highest. You see that the reason that we are on Facebook is mostly because of friends, and the reason that we are not leaving Facebook is also because of that, because we don't want to be left out. And if you look at ownership, that is also pretty solid, because we have spent so much time accumulating so many things on our profiles. We don't want to let go of it, and that kind of links back into the avoidance as well. We don't want to lose what we've built. But if you look at some of the things that Facebook is low on, meaning like it doesn't let you believe that you're part of something bigger than yourself. So that is a little bit low. At the same time, now it's not scarce. You know that if you want to get into Facebook, you can. So that is not a reason why you go there. So if you look at this, and on his website, there are a lot of apps that he's dissected and like split it like this. If you go look at that, you'll actually be surprised at how much relatable this framework is into everyday things that we're doing.
And just to clarify, this Octalysis is not Yukai Choi's concept. This is something that other folks came up with, and he has been pursuing this idea for 10 years, which is very interesting.
Prove it right.
Not to prove it right.
Let's get into the masses.
So these things are not black and white, Akhilesh. So if you get into Yukai Choi's journey, it would have been that he had an epic calling, and meaning that he wanted to figure something out, and gamification and Octalysis has become his passion. So he has tried to pursue that concept and trying to apply it and shape different technologies actually. And when you get on this blog and you start reading his experiences, that is what you should draw. Don't see it as black or white. Like if you have scarcity, it will be there. If it's not there, it never works that way. It's more like how are you building those experiences such that it's subtle. For example, say in you work in HP. Now, in your day-to-day activities, because you have an organizational structure and you have job responsibilities and you have a particular job to do and the task is defined, you know what to expect 9 to 5. So that can get boring. Now, at times when there's like, say, transition of data from one place to other and you have to put in the extra hours and you don't know if it's going to work out or not, and you start an 8-hour test and in the middle of it, it crashes. What happens to you? You say, oh God, there's going to be like pressure on me. Now I have to start from first. There's going to be 10 more hours. Now that's a negative driver, but you don't stop doing it. You still have to do it. Why? You need to perform your job and you want to get ahead in that and you want to build a career, right? So this negative driver is pushing you to do that better. Make sure you find the right solution and implement it, right? So, but why is that? Ultimately, like you can just walk away from it. Nothing is going to hold you on to it. So why are you held on to your job? Why are you held on to your career? Why are you held on to this whole notion of building success, right? So it seems like those are the elements that have driven Yukai Choi to continue to explore this, and this helps him understand many things in life, and he's been like provocating it, right? So that was my take on Yukai Choi and how you should be looking at this.